Today I'm going to show you the most exciting melon that I've ever grown in my garden. This plant here behind me, this is called the tiger melon. It's also called the Tigger melon, but for this video I'm going to call it the tiger melon because that's what I've always called it. This is a small melon that has these beautiful vibrant colors, and today we're going to find out if it has a flavor that goes along with those colors. There isn't a whole lot of really good information that tells us where this melon is from, but most sources say that it's from somewhere in Armenia. Now if you want to grow some of these melons for yourself, it's not really all that hard once you understand what they need to grow and what makes them happy. First off, you can start seeds for these indoors, or you can also direct sow them outside. The first thing you want to consider is the soil temperature. They need soil of about 70 degrees Fahrenheit to really be happy. So if you start seeds indoors, that's going to be about room temperature and you're not really going to run into any issues there. If you want to direct sow them, you can direct sow them as long as that soil is hitting that 70 degree mark. If you are going to direct sow them, just keep in mind that it's going to be about 88 to 100 degrees for maturity. Honestly, ours has been going longer than that and we're still getting plenty of good melons on here. We've actually only harvested 1 or 2 melons off of this plant. The rest of these are still going, it's still producing new fruit, so I would give yourself more than 100 days if possible. When you're finally bringing those plants outside or you're picking a place to plant these plants, just keep in mind that they're going to be a full sun plant. They're going to want at least 6 hours of full sun every single day. And one thing that I found really helpful this season with these plants is they really enjoy the heat. They are a heat-loving plant, and especially when you compare them to other melons. If you look here behind me, here, I'll show you. If you look here behind me, here are some other melons that definitely didn't enjoy the heat whatsoever. Now when you compare it to this tiger melon behind me, this plant has absolutely just thrived in the hot weather we've had. We had probably 3 weeks of 100-degree plus temperatures in Fahrenheit, and this plant really just took off during that time. It really loved the temperatures. Everything online says that these plants like temperatures up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but just kind of from personal experience this season, they do just fine in temperatures well above 95 degrees. Between my tiger melon and my Armenian cucumber back there that I already did a video on, those two plants really just did so well in the heat this summer. They absolutely just took off during the heat waves. These plants are going to be relatively heavy feeders. You want to make sure that you're giving them plenty of fertilizer, whether that be in the form of compost or organic fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers, whatever you need to give them. Just make sure that you're feeding them plenty of nutrition so that way they can really grow and build those fruits and put on the size and all the foliage that they need, because this plant gets pretty big. But I will say, if you don't have the room to really put one of these in your garden, these are going to grow really well in a container. I would put them in a 5 or a 10-gallon container without worrying about it whatsoever. They're going to grow really well in containers as long as you keep them watered, keep them fed, because they're going to be soaking up a lot of that nutrition out of containers, especially out of containers. So if you are growing them in, let's say, a tote or a bucket, grow bag, anything like that, make sure you're doing some heavy compost, you're putting in a lot of extra fertilizer as it needs it, different things like that. Now these are going to give you some relatively heavy yields. I mean, I probably have 15 of these melons on my plant right now. Some of them are still relatively small, but some of these melons are good to go. These aren't going to get very big. These are going to be personal size melons. I've got one right here that actually it split open a little bit, and I'll talk about this here in just a second, but this is as big as they get. They get just personal size. They get about 1 pound is all they get. So you're going to put on 10 or 15 different melons on this plant, but realistically, one is going to feed somebody in your family. It's not going to be like a watermelon where you cut open a watermelon and feed the whole family with it. It's not going to be like that. And with this one splitting here, let's talk about watering. So when you're watering these, when they're very first starting to put on that fruit, when they're very first putting on all the foliage and starting to grow, they're going to grow really fast. They're going to start putting on fruits. They're going to start doing all these things. You want to give them a lot of water during those stages. Even through the stage where it's starting to set fruit and you've got some of these smaller fruits like this one right here, and I think I have another one over here somewhere, and this one down here. I don't know if you can see that. If you continue to give it a lot of water when it's starting to ripen up those melons, you're going to run into issues like this right here where you're giving them too much water, they're going to start splitting open. I'm still going to eat this. I'm going to cut it open here at the end of this video and tell you exactly how it tastes, because there's nothing wrong with this. It's totally fine. I'm not too worried about it. But to mitigate that, just pull back on that watering as the fruits are getting to their mature size, so about the size of a softball. Pull back on that watering and it's going to help them, it's going to stop them, or hopefully stop them from splitting open like this. You can grow these plants on the ground or on a trellis. I have mine growing on a trellis, but I will say that Plenty of the vines of this plant are trailing along the ground, and they're doing just great. I've got 4 or 5 melons that are growing on the ground currently, and then the rest are growing up along this trellis. It is going to take up quite a bit of space, and this is a perfect opportunity to start looking into vertical gardening. This is a very light melon. It doesn't get very heavy, so it is very, very easy to grow up a vertical trellis. The only thing you really want to do is, even though it's small and you have these tiny, tiny little melons, they're not very heavy and the vine isn't gonna break. But one thing you do need to worry about is if you're not supporting these melons with some kind of melon support, I have a video, I will link it down in the description below for how to support your melons, because even though it's not gonna be heavy enough to break that vine or to fall off that vine, as it gets ripe and right as it hits that point of being ripe to where you wanna eat it, it's gonna fall off that vine. The vine's gonna let it go, it's gonna drop, and it has the potential of breaking open, and you don't want to waste it. You put a lot of work into this. You don't want to waste your melon by letting it fall on the ground and break open. So if you are going to grow vertically, consider supporting them with some kind of melon support, whether it be pantyhose or the stuff I got off of Amazon. I'll also put those in the description. You want to make sure that you're giving them that support, so that way when they do break off that vine, they're being held by that little cradle, that little melon support there. But if you don't want to grow them vertically, these grow really, really well on the ground. Now, as you're growing these, you're going to hit a point where you just don't really know when to harvest it. When these fruits first start setting, you're going to see a dark green, light green kind of zigzag pattern on there, and that's what they're going to look like most of the time. After that melon pretty much gets to its full grown size, its full potential, you're going to start seeing a small change in the color, and it's going to go from that dark green and light green combination. It's going to start turning like this weird reddish brown color, and then directly after that, it's going to go straight to that orange and yellow combination with the tiger stripes. What really makes these melons pop, what really makes them popular, and just really a beautiful, beautiful addition to your garden is going to be that awesome yellow and orange color. Now, as soon as you see it turning this yellow or this yellow and orange color, so you've got your orange coloring, your yellow stripes. As soon as you get this color, that's when you want to pick it. And another thing that's really going to tell you that it's ready to be harvested is this smell. You're going to hear a lot about tiger melons being really fragrant, and really the smell is so strong and so sweet. Just walking out of my house, I could smell that melon. Walking around in my garden, it really does make the entire garden smell like this. And it's like if I had to compare it to anything, it's kind of like a cantaloupe smell, but sweeter. Just the smell on these are absolutely crazy. So even if you don't like melons and you just want your garden to smell good and look beautiful, this is an awesome thing to grow. Now, talking about this smell, if we go back to the watering stuff that we were talking about earlier and how you water it and then you kind of pull back when they're starting to ripen, that's going to come in handy as well if you talk about the flavor and the smell. These melons, they come from a dry climate, and if you overwater them, you can really kind of water down that taste, water down that smell. You want to keep your water under control, slow it down there as soon as they hit their mature size, but they're not ripening yet. Pull back on that water, and it's going to help you with the flavor, with the smell, and it's really going to do you a whole lot of good, because there's a lot of people that when they first eat their first tiger melon, they're really disappointed because it's not the flavor that they were expecting. It's not sweet, it's kind of bitter, they're not really fans of it, and a lot of times that can be, not all the time, but it can be because of overwatering. We'll get into the actual flavor of this here in a minute, but if you overwater it, it can kind of tone down that flavor and give you a different flavor. So keep your watering under control. Make sure you pull back on that watering when it's starting to ripen. Now let's go ahead and go over here and get one of these harvested, show you one right off the vine, and then we'll go ahead and cut into it and see how it tastes. All right, so since I have my little melon hammock, my little melon support on here, I'm gonna have to go ahead and cut this off to get this out of here, and it fell right off the vine, so I know this one's ready to go. Maybe I'll cut into this one. Actually, I can't cut into this one because if I cut into this one and I don't have one to give my neighbor, she's gonna kill me. My friend's wife is really upset that I didn't have one of these for her yet, so this one's going to her. I'm gonna cut into the other one. But I wish I had smell-o-vision so I could just allow you so I wish I could just push the smell of this through the camera, because wow, that is just the best smelling melon. You know what? I think I am gonna cut into this one. This one looks a little bit better than this other one, and I wanna be able to fully describe the flavor, and I will give one of the next ones to my neighbor. So let's go ahead and cut into this one and show you what the flesh looks like, what the seeds look like, what it tastes like, what it smells like, all of it. So let's go ahead and cut into this. So this flesh is gonna be kind of a white, oh wow, a white like ivory looking, just kind of a off-white color, beautiful, beautiful color. It's gonna have a lot of seeds in the middle of it. If you can, and you're growing this and you wanna grow more of these, save your seeds, because these are ones you can just scoop right out. If you don't have one and you're looking for seeds, I did get my seeds from MI Gardener. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the MI Gardener channel, and I bought the seeds for these originally on their channel, and it was like $2 for the pack of them. I think I got like 10 seeds, and obviously it grew really well, but now I have enough seeds here to give to all my friends if they want to grow it, and to save some for myself so I can grow it next year, because this is absolutely one that I'm regrowing next year. So let's go ahead and cut a slice out of this here. The smell didn't change when you cut it into it. Just as pungent, just as awesome smelling. So let's cut a little slice off here and see how we feel about it. So we got a little slice. It almost looks like an apple, right? Okay, let's give this a shot. Wow. I hope you can hear me eating this. This is so good. I've heard a lot of people saying that the flavor of this is toned down. And they describe it as the flavor isn't very strong. It's not very sweet. I'm not getting that. That was, holy cow. Okay, I'm gonna have another piece. So incredibly good. If I had to describe the flavor, it tastes kind of like a cantaloupe. I have a texture thing. I have like I don't like crumbs and glitter and like really juicy melons. Like I love the flavor, but tomatoes, anything like that, I can't do the really juicy, like when I bite into something, if it just sprays all over the place, I'm not a fan of that. And it really stops me from eating a lot of things like cantaloupe. I love the flavor of cantaloupe, and I'm getting that flavor with this. This tastes really similar to a cantaloupe, but it doesn't spray all over the place when you eat it. It has kind of a more of a spongy texture, and it's not quite as like juicy. Oh my God, that is seriously amazing. Out of everything I've ever eaten on this channel, this is the one that I just wish I could send it to you so you could smell it in like smell-o-vision and taste-o-vision. That is so good. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna enjoy this one too. This is gonna be the video about the Armenian cucumbers. Just an amazing, amazing all-around cucumber. So if you wanna grow cucumbers, you live in a hot climate, or you just have hot weather in general, go watch this video because it's a good one. I'll see you there.